All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are cracking open a fascinating study that gets to the heart of a huge issue: early childhood education. We're going to look at a specific experiment that tried to solve a really persistent problem by focusing on just one mentor at a time. Let's see what they discovered.
So this is the big question, right? The one that's at the center of everything we're talking about today. We know those first few years of life are just absolutely critical for a person's development. But how do we make sure the care our infants and toddlers get is top-notch? Not just keeping them safe, but actually helping them thrive. It sounds simple, but wow, the answer is anything but.
And look, this isn't just some abstract problem. The very paper we're digging into lays it out in black and white. This quote, it doesn't pull any punches at all. It says the quality of care is often mediocre. I mean, that's a pretty tough word to hear, and it really sets the stakes for why finding a solution is just so important.
Okay, so that brings us to our first section here, the quality question. What are we actually doing right now to try and improve things, and is any of it working?
You know, right now, the go-to method for training caregivers is the standard workshop. I'm sure you can picture it. A conference room, maybe a projector and a slideshow, a lecture for a big group. It's totally a one-size-fits-all approach. And the researchers behind this study started wondering, is there a better, more personal way to actually make a real difference?
So that simple question led to a full-blown experiment. And this is where we get to what I like to call a tale of two trainings. Researchers in Pennsylvania set up this amazing head-to-head comparison to find out what really moves the needle.
And they did it using what's really the gold standard in science, a randomized trial. This is super important because it's the best way to make sure your results aren't just a coincidence or a fluke. You basically take a bunch of people, split them into two random groups, and only one group gets the special new thing you're testing. It's the cleanest, fairest way to see if an idea actually has legs.
So here's how they set up the two teams. First, you've got the control group. They got the business-as-usual treatment, just access to those standard workshops we talked about. But then you have the mentoring group. They got something totally different. We're talking intensive, one-on-one coaching with an experienced pro who could give them personalized advice right there in their own classroom.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty. The study involved 52 caregivers from 27 different child care centers, all in South Central Pennsylvania. Now, the key thing to notice here is the timeline. This whole special mentoring thing, it only lasted for 4 months. The goal was pretty ambitious. See if they could improve not just the overall classroom environment, but also something more subtle, how sensitive and responsive the caregivers were with the kids.
Okay, the stage is set. The experiment is underway. So what happened next? Well, this is where the story takes its first really interesting turn. Let's look at the initial clues the data gave us.
So after those 4 months were up, the researchers crunched the numbers, looking at the big overall scores for classroom quality. And what they found? Well, it was definitely not what anyone was expecting.
And here is where things get really wild. Look at this chart. The mentoring group, on the left, their quality scores went up by 7 points. That's good, that's a win. But look at the control group. Their scores actually went down by 5 points. That suggests the standard training might not just be useless, it might actually be happening while things are getting worse.
But, and this is a really important but in the world of science, even though the mentoring group improved, the change wasn't big enough to be what scientists call statistically significant. All that means really is that they couldn't be 100% sure the improvement wasn't just due to random chance. It was a good sign, for sure, but it wasn't a slam dunk.
Which of course leads to this really dramatic question. If the main result wasn't a clear, undeniable win, did the whole thing just fail? Was mentoring just a nice idea that didn't really make a difference?
Nope, not even close. Because that big overall number was hiding the most important clues. It's time to dig into the deeper story. And trust me, this is the aha moment.
See, the really crucial thing to understand is that looking at one single number for quality is kind of like judging a whole book by just its cover. The real impact of this mentoring program wasn't hiding in that big overall score. It was in the small, specific, day-to-day things happening between the caregivers and the children.
And bam, here it is. This is the smoking gun. When the researchers broke the data down, they found statistically significant, and that means real, measurable, improvements for the mentored group in all these critical areas. Routines like diapering and meals got way better. Learning activities got a boost. And maybe most importantly, caregiver sensitivity and how they use discipline both saw significant gains. This was the proof they were looking for.
Now hold that thought and compare it to the control group, the ones just doing the regular workshops.
They saw pretty much no change in most areas. But look at that one highlighted line. Their interactions with the kids didn't just stay the same, they got significantly worse over those 4 months. I mean, that finding is just stunning. It suggests the status quo wasn't just ineffective, it might have been making things worse.
So what's the final verdict here? Let's put all these pieces together and talk about why this whole mentoring idea really truly matters.
And just let this sink in again for a second. All of this progress, these huge changes, they all happened in just 4 months. This wasn't some decade-long project. It was a short, focused program that got powerful results, and it got them fast.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, first, that generic workshop-style training, it isn't enough. In fact, it might be happening at the same time quality is going down. But second, and this is the hopeful part, targeted personal mentoring can create real positive change in the exact behaviors that matter most for a kid's development. This study is powerful proof that investing in intensive person-to-person support for our caregivers is a strategy that absolutely works.
And this isn't just some interesting academic finding. As the study's author says right here, the findings have direct public policy implications. It means they show us a real path forward, a model that can actually create positive change in the quality of care for our youngest, most vulnerable kids.
Which leaves us with this one last really big thought to chew on. This was a pretty small study, right? Just one part of one state. But if just 4 months of this kind of focused support can make such a huge difference for 52 caregivers, just imagine what a dedicated national program built on this same idea could do for millions of children. What would that even look like? It's a powerful question to think about.